Good evening and welcome to the 100th episode of Filmnut. Oh my God, I can't believe it. 001 or the other way around. Very excited to be here tonight for number 100. All right. Well, let's get right to it. According to the Mesoamerican long count calendar, the world as we know it is going to come to an end in the year 2012. My guest tonight, Johann Urb, co-stars in Roland Emmerich's latest disaster tale, appropriately titled 2012. Due out in theaters November 13th, 2009. Urb also co-stars in the new ABC series Eastwick and has some independent films we're going to cover, Strictly Sexual and Porn Star. Now, those are a couple of topics I can get behind. In Porn Star, Urb stars and actually picks up the producing reins as well, so we're going to talk about that aspect of his career. Here with me on my 100th episode of Filmnut is Johann Urb.
Hi, I feel very honored. I didn't know it was the 100th. Thank you.
It's great to have you on. Looking forward to it. You got a great background. I'm looking forward to talking about your acting, producing, modeling is where you started, I believe, and
That's
then
right.
also where you come from, Estonia.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to get to. So let's start with 2012. Big action, big, huge, $260 million feature coming out, end of the world. What's it about, and then have you ever worked on something like this?
I've never worked on a $260 million movie before, and it was, it was a dream come true, because as a kid, as a dude, you grow up watching these action movies and wondering what it's like and what goes into it, and man, this movie has it all, and I just feel very honored to be a part of a movie like that and have a chance to work with someone like Roland Emmerich, who I greatly admire, and Independence Day being one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's just a kick-ass film. What was it like? It was incredible. It was incredible. A lot of, doing a lot of green stuff.
Is that new for you, working on the green screen?
It was, and in the film.
You play what?
I play a private pilot to this Russian gazillionaire. And I end up basically having to cart a whole bunch of people around on different airplanes, to try to save them, trying to save ourselves from this impending doom. And
so, assuming you're not a fighter pilot, I'm guessing a lot of the flying was done via green screen, right?
Yes, indeed it was. And it's really interesting because you're sitting in this cockpit that looks very real, and it's ginormous, and you have this giant studio, and it's actually a blue screen,
right? Okay,
and it's going all around, and you got dudes below the plane with like 2x4s, and they're rocking the plane, and then you got Roland Emmerich going, okay, now this is happening, and now you're crashing down, and now you're flying between this, and you got to see all of this, you got to image it, you got to, It's interesting because to create that world in your mind and to be able to project it and to see it all is quite the task, because you're basically acting by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, talking to you before we came on, you strike me as being a very thoughtful and well-trained actor.
Got you fooled.
Got me fooled, there you go. And this was like a new experience for you, so you had to rely on your imagination to get you through it, sounds like.
Well, it's different in a sense. A lot of times when you prepare a script or you work, or when I prepare a script, I imagine it like a movie. I see it, I visualize it, and in that sense, it was just it was different because how much it's costing, every second and every minute, and you got hundreds of people on the set, and they're watching you on these different cameras, and it's just you and the blue screen, and the dude's rocking the boat basically, and so it's a very different experience, and you really got to forget about all that and forget about the pressure of it all, and know that millions of people are going to see you doing this, and just go with it.
Just go with it.
And it probably took me a couple of takes to get there, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope I get to do a lot more of it.
Great. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about Disaster 2012, but I also want to touch on, get to Porn Star really quick. We're going to jump back and forth, 100 episodes. By now, I got a little ADD on here. Set up what Porn Star is about, because I know that's the project of yours that we have a clip of, and we want to get to that. So what's
Porn Star is a story of a girl who's in the business, and basically, she meets a guy who's a mechanic, just a regular guy, and they end up falling in love, and he gets thrown into this world of porn and porn actors and the business and drugs and partying and orgies and you know, all of that. And also, you know, the other side, which is really people's troubles and issues and, you know, maybe abuse and all of the things that, you know, we cover up with drugs and partying. So, and then my part in it is I'm sort of hang out around this girl and one of the actors, and, you know, I play a straight guy who's a gay porn star. And what a great experience to do that.
I wonder if there are a lot of those out there.
You know, doing research for this part, interestingly enough, I believe there are. And, you know, especially I'm finding a lot of it is over in Eastern Europe and stuff too, where, you know, I have a bunch of gay friends and, you know, I've picked their brain about this, and apparently it is out there. And, you know, one of the things that you have to do as an actor, so you don't judge a character, is to have a completely open mind and then justify it to yourself. How would I, in this situation, justify this, right? And so it's quite simple when you get down to it and you start doing it that way. It's just, it's fascinating. That's why I love my job, because I just get to go into these different skins, if you will, and experience the world and the ideas through different perceptual lenses, and really to have a whole lot more compassion for everybody. And also, you know, the interesting thing about that is to look at yourself through those perceptual lenses. So if you suddenly put my perceptual lenses onto you and you saw me, you know, or you saw yourself, it's all different. It's so, you know, in NLP, which is another thing that I study, and neuro-linguistic programming.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's take a look at the clip, and then we'll talk about NLP, because it is interesting, and I know where you're going with that.
You got it.
So here you are in Porn Star.
Listen, I'm shooting a film next week. It's called The Virgin Manhole. You should be in it with me.
No thanks, I'm not gay.
Me neither. I bet you got a hairy asshole, huh? See, the thing is, you don't get paid shit for fucking hot girls, though I do. But if they pay me $5 grand to sodomize some queers on film, I reckon it's worth it.
So you weren't kidding around. But now that was a funny scene, but the movie is not a comedy.
It is not a comedy. I'd say it's more of a tragedy of sorts. You know, it has a lot of elements in it, and a lot of fun moments, but also a lot of tragic moments.
And you were going to say about the NLP?
I was going to say one of the interesting things that, you know, one of the sayings in NLP, if you will, is that the map is not the territory. Which means that, you know, you and I could look at the same exact thing and see it completely differently. And it's so interesting to then be a character and put yourself in somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes. And it's quite liberating, actually, I think. It really gets me out of my own head and out of my own way of thinking. And, you know, because we all think that how we see the world is how the world is, right?
Right.
And suddenly you're in somebody else's shoes, you go, holy shit, it's completely different.
Absolutely. You know, someone once phrased to me, kind of veering off in the esoteric direction, with the question of what would you do if you were me? Well, the question is, if you were to ask me, Jeff, what would you do if I was you? I can't answer that as me being you. It's you who you are, what your background is, and seeing the world through your eyes. What would the advice be in that scenario? You see, that's the
absolutely
big difference.
Absolutely.
Now, you picked up the producing reins on this project. How did that come to be?
Well, Stevie Long and I, Stevie wrote Strictly Sexual, and as well as Porn Star, and we did Strictly together, and we became tight and friends, and you know, then decided to start a company together and produce this film and make this film.
Had you had producing experience prior to this?
I hadn't. No, I didn't. And you know, I got to say, you know, having produced the film was such a great experience, because I have so much more respect for everybody else involved, you know, from the PAs to the director to the writers to just everybody, the post and the pre and the casting, and, you know, because I really got to see the whole process from, you know, getting the money, the funds, and then doing the casting process and finding the locations and you know, being there every day when filming and, you know, looking over the budgets and going, oh, we don't have enough money for this, and then a lot of things falling apart, or, you know, people not coming through on their promises, and, you know, you pull in a lot of favors and you're trying to get your friends to come and be extras, and so really, you know, as an actor, you show up usually to work. You know, your trailer's there. Oh, sir, how are you? Would you like some food? Blah blah blah. Are you, you know, everything is your pampered.
Right.
You know, so you don't really appreciate how hard everybody else is working, and it was such a great experience because now when I show up to work, I really appreciate everybody and understand at least somewhat how much work it really takes to make a film or an episode of TV or a 5-minute segment of anything for that matter, you know.
Can I extract then from that one of the biggest challenges then would be overcoming, you mentioned broken promises or people not coming through on promises?
Sure. Yeah, you know, we had incidences where we would show up to a location and you know, we were told that everything was cool and, you know, we can shoot here and we can do this and that, and then we'd show up and, you know, LA, I think especially, people are kind of, they know that they can get money. And so we had a situation where we showed up at a location and everything was supposed to be cool. And then, you know, the landlord comes out, it's like, no, you guys can't shoot here. You know, we're going to call the cops. You got to get out of here. And it was like, okay, how much?
Right.
You know, and then it comes down to the money.
Right.
But it's just, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth because it's not like, oh, you guys can shoot here, it's cool. Right. It's like, you can shoot here if you pay me. And, you know, you always hope that people, you know, because you're explaining to them, look, you know, we don't have any money and we're a low budget movie and could you please help us out? We can do whatever. You can give you tickets to the premiere, whatever. And no. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging. You got to be on your toes. You never know what's going to happen or who's going to.
Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. You got to be prepared for that.
Backup plans.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get to our first instant message of the evening. Bottom would like to ask, this is the third television adaptation of The Witches of Eastwick to be made, the first two failing to make an impact or to be picked up for that matter. That's true. There were 2 pilots made previously based on it, but they were not picked up. This would be the third, and it has been picked up. 2 episodes have aired so far, I believe. Third being tonight at 10 p.m. Pacific time, or Eastern, I guess, where you're at. What kind of approach are you guys making to this project to make it succeed? Were you hesitant about taking a role in a show based on a film, since a lot of times they don't last?
Well, first of all, no, I wasn't hesitant. You know, when I went in to read for this, David Nutter was there and Maggie Friedman, and David Nutter and I have crossed paths before, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, you know, and what he's done and as a director, and I think that anything that he would be involved with, I would love to be a part of. And secondly, you know, I feel like,
you know, series regulars aren't things that you turn down.
Well, absolutely. I mean, hello. I mean, I don't know how easy you guys think out there is to be in Hollywood and get jobs, you know, but it's not as easy as it may seem. But secondly, you know, I read the script and I really loved it because it was light, it was funny, and you know, I think the cast is great. I think the acting is great. And I think we're finding the tone, and we're, you know, in every show in the beginning, it takes a little while to sort of figure out what's going on and whatnot.
Establish itself, find its legs.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if we get a chance and a shot, because, you know, it wasn't really advertised, and, you know, if people keep watching it, I think we can do really well. Then again, you never know. But I'm having the best time on the set, and that's, you know, that's the difference maker for me.
Now, who's in it with you?
Rebecca Romijn. Lindsay Price, Jamie Ray Newman, and Paul Gross is the big evil guy. Yeah. And then Sarah Ruse, also wonderful actors, John Berntal, Ashley Benson, Veronica Cartwright. Am I forgetting anybody? Johann Urb, he's amazing.
There you go.
You know, but you know, it's just a lot of fun, and we play and we have fun, and I think that hopefully that will come across on the show. And
I read a critic's review that said it's basically kind of like Desperate Housewives with the paranormal thrown in.
Yeah, it's that, or, you know, some people say Sex and the City, or, you know, Charm, this or that. There's a lot of elements to it. But, you know, I really think that our show is just fun. It's fun to watch. There's all kinds of things happening. The ladies are beautiful. You know, the guys are all right. And
And maybe for those people who haven't seen the original movie, it's three women coming upon magical powers and wish fulfillment, being lured by an evil force, and is that?
You know, these women are kind of unhappy. You know, they live in a little town and they don't feel fulfilled, and suddenly they start discovering these powers that they have, and it's a really cool story in that sense. It's empowering because I think we all are all powerful in a way if we just choose to believe it, you know. And so it's a fun story of sort of finding out those things, and also, you know, between the forces of good and evil, and you know, do you want to go the route of power, you know, when it's dark, or do you want to develop your own power when it's good? And it's just a fun way of exploring that, I think.
And you're the good guy.
I am the good guy, you know.
Change of pace.
For me, it's great because Will, the guy I play on the show, his name is Will Saint David, like Saint, you know, and he really just always leads with his heart. He gets hurt all the time by these ladies, and you know, he's just a good guy. He's a volunteer fireman. He you know, has an environmental blog. Plays bingo with old people on the weekends. Like, he's just that guy, that good guy, and I love that because again, for me as an actor, you know, to sort of put that skin on and to really experience that, it teaches me something, and it allows me to experience life differently for those moments, and I love it.
So that's the second time you use the metaphor of putting a skin on. So from straight guy playing gay porn star to volunteer firefighter, you know, photographer, good guy, do you break down these characters as people and you become them? Is that your process? Explain how you put these skins on.
For me, it's really, you know, I work with a lot of different ways, and I don't think there is, for me personally, I don't think there is one right way to do it. You know, sometimes I work with an animal. Sometimes I work with a thing called psychological gesture. And this is sort of Michael Chekhov type of acting technique, where you're trying to capture the movement of the character. And sometimes I work with atmosphere. Sometimes, you know, I really get into the history and you know, try to. There's so many different ways of finding it, and the most important thing that I find for me is not to get too heady about it, but to really to feel the character and sort of slip into the character, and you know, and play around with it. You know, I'm honing that process constantly. You know, I study and I'm learning something new all the time, and my teacher is brilliant, and I just feel very fortunate to have him and constantly be experimenting. For me, you know, acting is a forever evolving process of discovering new things. And a lot of times I discover stuff in a scene with somebody, you know, when you're doing a scene and you're like, oh. And it's just trusting that intuition and trusting that inspiration.
And when that works, that's when the art is at its highest form.
I believe
you know,
so.
and it feels wonderful.
I
now,
believe so.
Since we're talking about sexual and porn and gay, and you mentioned working with animals, what does that part mean?
Not like that.
Okay.
Working with animals is really, you know, when you think of a person or you think of a character, you might associate a certain type of animal energy. Like for me, Will is like he's like a dog. You know, he's loyal. He's strong. He always comes back even if you hit him. You know, he always has your best interest at heart. He's selfless. And so when you think about those characteristics and you put an animal to it, it kind of gives you a sense in your body of a feeling. Because I think a lot of times what I see, you know, actors, they get really stuck in their heads. It's like, well, I got to comply to this in the script, and it's like this and this and this, and then you really just, you get stuck, and the energy is not flowing between you and the other actor, or you and whatever your target might be. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always try to avoid.
That's awesome.
And, yeah.
Rather than hitting beats or technical notes,
yeah.
Boom, channeling the spirit of animals. That's cool. I haven't heard that before. I like that. Let's get to another instant message. Kupchak would like to ask, with movies you've starred in like 2012 and TV series like One Tree Hill, which do you prefer and why? TV versus film question.
You know, I love them both. It's different. It's different mediums. You know, movies you get to take your time more. You get to perhaps explore more. With TV, there's timing. You got to be quicker, you know, and you got to make things flow faster in a sense. And so it's a different sort of medium in that sense. I don't really, to answer the question, I don't really have a preparation. I love going to work, and I love doing what I do, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do that.
Good answer. Let's get to another one. Cherry Pie would like to ask, since Eastwick is a remake, have there been any reactions or suggestions from the original movie during production to help you get into character? Any connection between the movie people and the TV people?
No, I think that the way I like to say it is, you know, like with the new Star Trek movie, I'm a total Trekkie, by the way. I grew up watching all Star Trek, you know, in Finland. I feel like, much like with the new Star Trek, there was a new timeline was started, and I think
the word they use for Star Trek, they called it a re-imaging, kind of?
Yeah, re-imaging. So I feel the same thing happened here, where we're kind of blazing our own path. And, you know, the premise is sort of the same.
Took the nucleus.
Yeah, but then, you know, to try to redo something or to replace something I don't think it's ever good. It's, at least in my opinion, I think it's funner to explore new ways of things and not go, oh, wait a second, I can't do this because they did this in the film, or, you know, if you feel like doing something, go for it and explore it, and you know, new things will arise, and that's always it.
That's great, and it's also, you know, it's pretty hard and unfair to then ask other actors to live up to Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, Cher, and to try to have them mimic them. You know what I mean?
How can you?
Right?
How can you? I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. If the best actor in the world, you still wouldn't want to mimic something like that, because it was perfect. It's brilliance, you know. So if you're going to be brilliant, be a little different than brilliant.
That's right.
You know?
Well, I see a 2012 question on the board, and I did promise I'd get back to that, so let's get to that. Bottom would like to ask, 2012 comes and the world is devastated in the events depicted in the film. You survive, what would your contribution to building of a new society be? So I don't know if this is a question based on your character, maybe this is just an open question.
If I'm going to take it as me, if I would survive in this film, you know, it'd be tough to survive. But if I did, I think what we need to move into as a human race is to get out of this idea of me, and we need to get into sharing. You know, we need to get into this new way of understanding that we're all interdependent. You know, this Newtonian way of looking at the world, where, you know, you are you and mechanical body, and me, I'm me, and our mind is separated from our body, and the universe or the planets are separated from everything else, and everything is separate, I think it's outdated and wrong. I mean, all the science now is saying that we're all connected by energy fields, and really it's just different vibrations in energy fields, right? Mm-hmm. And it would be to sort of really plant those seeds into the children and the people who would survive, so we can better build our society to caring for one another and not competing with one another.
Very nicely said. And you have an interesting perspective, in particular because of your background. You grew up in Estonia and then you moved to Finland.
Yeah.
And you know, you were, like most of us can't imagine, right? American independence, 1776. Estonian, it had its independence, it lost it, and then in 1991 it regained it, right? So what was that, where were you when that happened, and what was that like for you?
I was in Finland, and man, it was incredible, because, you know, Soviet Union is really tough to explain. It's hard to explain, you know, and different people have different perspectives on it. Some people say, oh, it was really great because everybody had a job and it was safe and this and that. But, you know, maybe it was that if you were Russian or something. But if you were an occupied country and you couldn't, you know, wear the colors of your country, you know, or speak about freedom, or, you know, and my dad spent years in jails and mental asylums because he was a singer, and he would, you know, sing about things you weren't supposed to, and, you know, KGB couldn't handle it. And a lot of people, you know, were put away, and sent to Siberia to die, and especially in the early days. And but up until the very end, like when my mom and I left in '87, I was questioned by the KGB at the age of 9 and 10, several times. And I didn't know this at the time because, we'd go on walks in the park and, have lunch and whatever. But looking back, I remember this. I mean, that's messed up. And
you were maybe one wrong answer from something.
Yeah, 'cause you just never knew. So it was. I forgot what your question was about because I'm going on this crazy tangent.
Affected your perspective on things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was when we got into our independence back, it was really such a liberating feeling to know that, because I'd sort of escaped Estonia to Finland with my mom, and at '87, nobody knew that '91 everything would change. The Iron Curtain was still up and strong, and it, could have gone another 50 years, another 100 years, who knows? So it was a very powerful, amazing feeling. And nowadays, when I go, Estonia, or talk to the kids, they're talking about, oh yeah, I went to Finland today, I went to here and there, and I went to, Finland's 45 miles north of Estonia. It felt like 45,000 miles, because you couldn't go there. You couldn't get out. And so the idea that people just come and go now, to me it's still strange. I'm like, whoa, you can do that?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very happy for our independence, and hopefully it'll stay that way. It's European Union is a whole other interesting story, and we'll see. See what happens.
Well, I see. In researching you, prepping for tonight, just something about you just come across as really grounded and having a really a good philosophical approach to your life and to your work that I think serves you very well. And meeting you before, I just heard about all this backstory. It makes sense.
Right. Thank you. Well, like I told you before, I got into. I've read a lot in my life, and I think that that's another thing that I really would. If I would survive 2012, I'd tell all the kids to grab a book and read a book a week. Because it's literature, man, it just changes you. It gives you so much. It just expands you. And at the age of about 13, 14, I started reading a lot of Eastern philosophy, Dhammapada, Bhagavad Gita, Tao Te Ching. For the first time, I remember reading Tao Te Ching and about Taoism. I was just laughing. I was going, this is brilliant. This is so brilliant, because it really explains things in such a way. It's so simple, because there really are no answers, and we're always seeking for answers, and we're always seeking for answers outside ourselves. And everything is here, and like the great sages say, the microcosmos is the same as macrocosmos. And if you would just sit down and meditate for like 20 minutes a day, you find out a lot of things about the world. And that's what I've kind of been doing, and I feel like it's always kept me grounded, and also, once you choose that path, those things kind of come to you.
Well, to bring it back to using filmmaking as the metaphor, and the meditation maybe being the yin, the experience being the yang, right? Putting on other people's skins, right? Experience it. You talked about producing a minute ago, and how that gave you so much of an appreciation for directing and PAs and all the positions because you experienced it.
For acting, I really, one thing about meditation and yoga and all of that I did before, it was a way for me to have a perspective, a removed perspective of the world, and it was very beneficial in a sense that I was very detached and able to clearly see things. But what acting has done has really been the balance for that, because another thing about growing up in Eastern Europe is you don't really talk about your feelings unless you're a bottle of vodka deep, and then you're like, I love you, man, but other than that, you don't really go there. And so acting is really, first of all, I discovered that I had feelings. Then I discovered how to access them, and then I got to go to all the deep, dark, crazy places that were kind of off limits to me, and really find the balance between the light and the dark, if you will. But if you're off kilter one way, then you're not really living. It's if you're able to experience both simultaneously. I think that's the way to be, at least for me.
Sure. And acting is a great exercise, even if you don't want to be a professional actor, just as a form of emotional release. It gives you permission to release emotions that you might not feel cool about otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to another IM, but what is the vodka recommendation of choice from the professional?
Vodka recommendation of choice?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I haven't drank in 10 years.
Okay.
I don't know. I used to drink.
What are they drinking in Estonia? Or in
I think it's. I'm not going to even put my foot in my mouth.
Okay.
I'm going to skip that question.
Fair enough. Craig would like to ask you: were you interested in the concept of a Mayan calendar ending in 2012 before you were cast in the movie? So were you familiar with that, with the mythology?
Oh yeah. I got into conspiracy theories and all of that years and years ago, and I love history, and I love ancient history, and I feel like our knowledge of history is very limited, and I think a lot of it is probably also, unfortunately, people have tried to shroud our history, whether it's the church or some other organization who's trying to rewrite history. But I think the Mayans, as well as Babylonians, Assyrians, the Egyptians, and all these ancient histories, the cultures, they had so much information, especially about astrology, and I've been so fascinated by all that, and so absolutely, I've been into it, been studying it, and so when I got to do this movie, I was just so ecstatic.
So now, in this movie, what is the cataclysmic event, or what is going to cause the end of the world as we know it?
What happens in this film is basically, how do I explain this now? I forgot the actual terminology, but basically it's a crustal shift. And the crust of the earth is shifting, right? And I don't know if this is because of a pole shift or something, or something in gravity happens, but...
and how much warning is there?
Not a whole lot. I mean, the government knows it's happening. And I think originally the plan was probably to let people kind of know, but it doesn't really go that way. So there really is no warning at all.
So that is the movie like, chaos as people have their last few hours?
Oh yeah. And as it's happening, it's obvious to people that it's happening. People come on the television and talk about it and whatnot, but this is a global event. This happens all over the world at once. And boy, oh boy, I really just hope that it won't happen, because if it did, it would be devastated.
Now, you seem like a very well-read, deep kind of guy. Is there a message to this movie? Is it a call to action? Is there inspiration? Is there something people are going to leave the theater with thinking, saying, talking about?
I think a lot of people are going to leave the theater wanting to move out of California, because that's where it kind of starts, and then out of planet Earth. But for me, the message in all of these movies, personally, is that be kind to one another. Because you never know when your last day here is. Live as if it is your last day. And it doesn't mean that go and break stuff and steal stuff and riot. But really, what's the mark you're going to leave? If we know that there is a asteroid headed this way, or if there's a crustal shift happening or whatever, what's your legacy? And that's what I always feel that the messages for me is leave a legacy that people, who do survive, can think of you and can say good things about you.
Now, the movie is doing some marketing where you can actually go online. There's a government agency in the movie. I'm forgetting what it's called right now off the top of my head. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Something about human...
The human...
the human...
Yeah, something. I don't know. I'll find it. Oh, yeah, here it is. The Institute of Human Continuity.
That's right.
Right, and there's instituteofhumancontinuity.org, and supposedly in the movie, they're raffling off who can survive, because the world is going to come to an end. There's a limited number of people who are going to survive, and you enter a raffle to do it. Mm-hmm. And if you go to that website I just announced online, you could play along and do that now. But you were saying in the movie that what happens?
I think that's kind of the original plan, but I think they were going to have a raffle, they're going to let everybody know, but things speed up, and the time schedule that they were on, and the scientists said, oh, it's going to happen, this and this time, but really it happened 2 years sooner. So that kind of got pushed to the wayside, and it's really about the survival of the humankind. And so, they can't let people know, or so they think, because then, their plan of saving humanity may not work.
Are there good guys and bad guys in this? Or are there people saying, oh, the world's not going to come to an end, or oh, we don't have to raffle?
There definitely are antagonists in this film, but there is no one bad guy. There's nobody really making this happen, or and there's no Dr. Evil, or
Right.
it's really everybody's in the same boat, but the integrity of a person comes out. Are you selfishly trying to save yourself, or are you actually trying to save as many people as you can? And that's what really happens in this film.
Okay, Cherry would like to ask you, since Eastwick is a remake, have there been any reactions or suggestions from the... Oh wait, we got to that one already. Do we have another one? Okay, so that threw me off. Strictly Sexual, that was an independent film that I watched a couple days ago, had me laughing almost from beginning to end. Outstanding job.
Thank you.
You and the entire crew there. What was your reaction when you got this script?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That whole movie is like one of my favorite sort of feelings in my heart. It was such a great... we had so little money, and everybody did it because it was a passion project, and everybody believed in it, and we had a very small crew.
And it was about?
The movie?
Yeah.
The movie is about these two construction workers that come to LA in hopes of finding some work out here, and they face a really kind of a rude reality of not finding any work, and then basically by accident or by misunderstanding end up moving into these girls' pool house. And
It's not even a pool house. It's like it's a cabana.
It's a
thing.
cabana. It's a cabana. And
but they think you're prostitutes.
They
that's the
think
thing.
we're prostitutes,
Yeah.
and we're just trying to have a fun time, and they think we're prostitutes, but they kind of feel sorry for us and say, hey, look, you can stay here, if you service us,
Right.
basically when we want to, but you stay out in the cabana, and we'll feed you, but you sleep over there, and when we call you in, you'll have sex with us, and you go back to your little cabana. And obviously, it turns into something more than just strictly sexual, and that's where the humor and the fun is. And it's a really funny, heartwarming story. I'm really proud of the movie. I really wish that people would see it. And I think that it's a great film. We shot it for less than $100,000, which is crazy. And the production value and the acting and the story is really amazing.
Yeah, I give it an enthusiastic film nut up. I don't think I've ever come up with an expression yet. We're 100 episodes in. Maybe I should now. But yeah, no, it's almost. I'm glad you mentioned the budget, but I almost wish you didn't, because you wouldn't think that you're watching something cheap.
Absolutely,
it's very
but
well shot.
it just goes to show that when you have the right people involved that are so talented. Anything's possible. Whether your budget is $5 or $5 million or $500 million, when it's $500 million, you have a lot more room to sort of move. And if you have 100,000, you're kind of doing a couple of locations, and you're not paying your actors a whole lot. But it was just so great. It's such a great project. I really have a very warm feeling.
Great buddy relationship between you and Stanny, your character, and Stanny, and and then the two couples, right? Because there does get to grow beyond just the physical, and the sex scenes are really funny. But there was no nudity in it, correct? A lot of sex scenes.
A lot of sex scenes, no nudity.
Right.
Yeah.
And was that a choice by the director? The actors weren't getting paid enough? What?
I'm not sure what the decision behind that was exactly, but I think we felt like we didn't need the nudity. I was trying to... Caffeine. I think we felt like it was enough, with just the storytelling, and you get the idea without having to show boobs and butt and whatever, and so I think, and the language in it is pretty.
Yes. Pretty graphic.
Pretty graphic.
In fact, if you're a guy out there and you're ever trying to convince your girl to do a particular sex act that she's never done before, your character has a pretty good way of talking, your female lead into doing that.
Yes, indeed.
So you get that, and you get lots of interesting theories on male-female relationships in general, right? Any that you particularly fond of or agree with or disagree with?
There are some, I think it has to do with the maturity of a person. One of the things that they say in the film is all the girls are looking, girls want to date guys that are jerks, the bad boys of the world, and, they're not going for the nice guys. And I think that in a lot of cases is true until you learn that lesson. You're always drawn to something dangerous and stuff, but it always leaves you unhinged at the end of it, and you feel, oh, why did I do this and whatever. And so I think there's a lot of truth in this film.
Yes, absolutely. Crazy Face would like to ask, what was your biggest obstacle when transitioning from a model to an actor? So I did mention at the beginning, very successful model.
The hardest thing, I think, for models going into acting is, as a model, you got to be really conscious of your body and how you look in pictures and the angles and the light, and you're making the clothes look good. You know, and then you got to make yourself look good in them, and you know, and it's static, and so you're very, very conscious, self-conscious. You're very self-conscious. As an actor, you got to throw all of that out the window. You cannot be self-conscious at all. I mean, your target, your attention is completely outside yourself. Not here thinking about this. You're thinking about the other person or whatever is happening. If you're in your little bubble, man, you're screwed.
Now, Rebecca Romaine was a huge model. You guys swap any modeling stories on the set of Eastwick?
You know, we haven't yet. We haven't spent a whole lot of time together. You know, her storyline and my storyline are kind of separated right now. You know, we run into each other, but we don't really have enough time to discuss that. But yeah, she was definitely, and she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it at that.
Now let me ask you this, do you have a favorite and a least favorite part of production? And you can
Yes.
answer that
Yeah.
as an actor or as a producer.
As an actor, it's definitely the shooting process, you know, of getting to act and experience and experiment with another actor. And as a producer, I really loved casting. I think the casting process is so fun. It's to be there and to see actors come in and what they bring, and you know, the different takes on the character. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Any least favorite part?
Least favorite part would be being in production and knowing that you have really no money left, and you got to get all of this stuff done, and everybody's complaining, and you're going over hours, and you got to cut stuff out, and you're constantly going, okay, we have this, but we really need to get this, but if we do this, and we got to cut this part out, and so you're losing sections of the script, and you're compromising the story, you know, and then also, you know, firing people, you know, if the people don't get along on set, and like, you know, then it's just the production is very stressful. At least it was for me, because you know, you have very limited funds and numbers of people that are working for you, and the puck stops here. I mean, you are the end all be all, and you got to make the decisions, and that's tough.
Okay, and the one we like to get people out of here on is, do you have a favorite set term speak? Like, so for example, back to one.
For me, I think it's rolling.
Fair enough. Rolling it is. Well, we are getting set to cut, but I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I really respect your perspective. You know, you're obviously doing great already, and I see more great things ahead. You're like a chameleon. I can see you with the long hair, the short hair, the shaven, the beard growth and everything. Lots of great stuff ahead.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be here on your 100th episode. That's awesome, and I wish the show will take off even more.
Well, thanks. Thanks for helping making it special.
Okay, thank you.
Before we get out of here, I want to remind everyone to watch Eastwick tonight, ABC every Wednesday at 10 p.m. And don't forget, The End of the World is going to be at a theater near you on November 13th. Of course, we're talking about 2012. And I believe next week we're going to be doing a special 100th episode look back, where we're going to take Brian Gramo, who's going to be sitting out here with me, executive producer and creator of Filmnut. We're going to look at his favorite moments, my favorite moments, and we're going to do a nice little highlight reel. It's going to be a lot of fun. So look forward to that. Hope you guys can tune in, and thanks for tuning in tonight.